Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trend Watch from CompTIA, where we bring you a little bit of this and a little bit of that from the research that we're doing in technology. I'm Seth Robinson, and today we're going to be talking about building a skills framework. There are a lot of discussions happening these days about using a skills-based approach for hiring or for career development, whether we're talking to HR professionals or we're talking to hiring managers or we're talking to individuals who are trying to prove the skills that they have either through a four-year degree or through some other mechanism like a certification. There's a lot of focus on this topic, I think, because companies are wanting to expand their candidate pool. They're wanting to find people that don't just necessarily come from a traditional educational background or a traditional four-year degree program. They've got so much demand, especially around technical skills, that they want to diversify their process a little bit and be able to find people with the right skills. And this sounds really easy in concept, or maybe it doesn't sound really easy, but it sounds kind of simple in concept, but it's very challenging in practice. Companies have to first build out a framework of all the skills that they want to take a look at. And when they're building out this framework, there are several things that they have to consider. The first is the different categories of skills that they would want to put into that framework. And in some of our recent research, we asked companies, what are some of the skills that you use during the performance process when you're talking to employees about their performance and their ability to progress in their career? And there are three main buckets of skill category. The first one is durable skill, and then right behind that is kind of core technical skill, or the core skill that you're using in your job, whether you're in technology or you're in finance or whatever. And I think the reason that durable skill has a slight edge over that core technical skill is simply because it's so broad. Because those durable skills really apply from job role to job role, from department to department. And companies are really focused on communications and teamwork and building a collaborative atmosphere. But the core technical skill is right behind that, and it really can't be overlooked. I think in some discussions, people focus on durable skills and say that that's the most important thing. I think that durable skill is very critical once you've moved past that core technical skill, which is kind of assumed table stakes for a job role. And then the third category of skill is breadth in skill. And so if you're in a technology field, maybe your specialty is in infrastructure, but you also want to have some breadth in areas like cybersecurity or data. If you're in a business role, maybe your core skill would be that business function, but you want to have some breadth and skill in other business functions or maybe in some technology fields. So you've got these three categories that have to go into a skills framework. And I think that provides a pretty significant challenge for a lot of organizations. And then the next layer of challenge is kind of figuring out what level of skill each job role needs. And here, if we're focusing on technical skills, the way that we talk about it at CompTIA is talking about digital literacy, digital fluency, and then digital mastery, kind of being able to understand what these tools are and then being able to use them and then really being able to implement them, troubleshoot them, tie them together so that you can have automation, things like that. No surprise, we see the greatest demand for digital mastery among the IT department or the technical specialists. That's not to say that companies aren't also looking for those previous two levels in that department, especially as companies are starting to build a little bit more of a pipeline of their technical skill. They've got these early career employees, and they might be expecting them to just be a little bit more on the fluency or literacy side, not all the way up to mastery, which is where maybe a mid-career employee or a later career employee might be. When we look across business departments, we expect to see a much greater emphasis on literacy and fluency, and that's what we see. We don't expect to see quite as much mastery from business department to business unit, but there's a really high demand for literacy and fluency, especially because companies are going through digital transformation. Workflows are getting digitized. There's a lot more technology coming into operations. And so each employee has to have some level of acumen and knowledge around these digital tools. Specifically, the three areas that we see kind of rising to the top are cybersecurity, the use of software applications, and proficiency in data. These are kind of the tools of the trade, no matter what department you might be in or what your job role might be. You've got to have some basic understanding of these things in order to do the job and in order to kind of keep the company safe and use the data in the best way possible. So companies are looking for all of these things and defining what level of skill is needed for each job role, whether it's in cybersecurity or using some kind of a SaaS application or manipulating data. That's a big challenge for a lot of HR professionals and managers who are building these skills frameworks. The final thing is that when these skills frameworks are being built, this really needs to be an organization-wide activity. And our research found that only about 30% said that their reskilling efforts were currently organization-wide. A lot of times it's down to just a department, or maybe it's focused on an individual that really wants to grow their career. And so they're having one-on-one conversations about reskilling. And if we're talking about building out this skills framework and you want to build in a lot of flexibility and a lot of career growth for your workforce, this really needs to be something that's adopted across the organization. And I think that's the final challenge, is getting everyone in the organization speaking the same language, getting them to come up the learning curve on how you use this skills framework in a hiring discussion or in a career advancement discussion, and getting each employee to understand how this is being used and what they can do for their own career. So building a skills framework is really important. We expect a lot of organizations to be pursuing this, and we expect there to be several challenges as they do it. And CompTIA has some tools to help, including the research that we have, as well as our product portfolio. So that's it for today's Trend Watch. We hope to see you again in the next episode.